Hello, growth season community. I just want you to sit back and maybe grab something to drink, maybe something hot or a cup of tea, because today we have two amazing guests that are with us. This is Kaitlyn. Say hi, Kaitlyn.
Hello.
Hi, and Lizzie. These two lovely, gorgeous ladies are coming out swinging. They have got an awesome podcast, and it is called Tea Time with the Psychos. I'm not going to tell you what that means because I'm going to let them tell you. We're so excited to have you. You are part of a series that is on it's a new series for growth season called Grow in Health. You guys are part of the mental health edition.
Oh, well, we love it.
Welcome to growth season.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Love that we can be a part of it.
We're so glad you're here. So you guys, I'm just going to jump right into it.
Perfect.
Who's going to tell me how you met? I'm sure it's adorable and amazing and hilarious.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. So we originally met, Lizzie and I worked at the domestic violence shelter here in town. I was in a different role than she was, and then did I end up training you?
Yeah, so then I applied. So Kaitlyn got a different role, and then I applied for that role that she had, and then she ended up training me. And then we made a little, little file thing with all of her wonderful documents. I give you all of the wonderful tidbits that I still have to this day and share with everyone else.
Nice.
But yeah, so we met at work.
Yeah, and then we developed a friendship from there. Liz says that she really liked me because I always wore my pink bow. So I have this.
Yeah, and she had these clickety heels. I'm telling you, this woman came in marching, and I was like, who is she?
I like it.
She's like, I learned more in an hour from you than I have this entire time that I've worked here.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. I like it. You're like,
Really
I'm going to hang out with that lady. That one right there. Yes, that one.
Yeah,
I love it.
I need to go. Yeah.
I love it. Listen, I like when there's a carrot out in front of you and they happen to also be awesome, right? You're like, yes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. And I love it. Already we're talking about how ladies can encourage each other and not necessarily compete with each other. Message. So this is going to be super fun, guys. You met at work.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bit of maybe even internally, a bit of a mentor for you. You guys obviously got along and you've been friends for a little bit now.
4 years.
4 years.
5 years. Yeah. Liz was in also in my wedding. We do a lot of things on the side together. We're doing a lot of things for the community. So and then also we do our podcast.
Yes. Let's talk about the podcast, Tea Time with the Psychos. Are you psychopaths?
Well, we decided that we could bring it all together and validate that name by maybe having a little bit of that, but then also Kaitlyn having her qualifications.
Yeah, so people like to make the joke because I'm a psychotherapist that they just drop off the therapist part and then they constantly ask me like, and I'm like, I've never heard that one before. And the podcast was actually Liz's idea. She wanted to do this and I'm like, okay, sweet, sounds good. Let me get my office space first. And then that's really and then she wanted it to do with tea and I wanted it to kind of be a pun. And then so we collaborated and then we got Tea Time with the Psychos. And
you guys, I'm telling you, it is the best name ever. I thought, maybe sometimes I feel like mine's a little on the nose because my first name is Season and it's growth season and blah, blah, blah. But Tea Time with the Psychos, I was like, oh, that's such a good name.
It really is. It is.
Oh my goodness. Well, obviously the two of you are into helping others. Lizzie, I know that you are still pursuing your master's. Tell the community what you're pursuing your master's in.
Clinical mental health. And so actually that was part of Kaitlyn and I's connection as well, was that she was finishing up her master's at the same program that now I am attending as well. Wonderful. And so that was kind of like that drive to continue with that friendship and ask questions and how was she navigating that. But
she really just needed my books.
Yeah. I just needed to save a little bit of money.
Rude. You probably have really good notes too though. So,
No, there was one book I borrowed. I was like, girl, this girl highlighted the whole book. I had to get a different one. I was like, I cannot focus. But no, it was good. So clinical mental health is what hopefully then I have the Master's of Arts in about a year. And then I'll do that hours thing and the licensure, which Kaitlyn has already done.
Nice. This really seems like just a beautiful friendship that was meant to be. you guys are, you're slapping the whole thing together. You're making it work and you're helping other people and you have shared passions. I just want to touch on this one thing briefly. I was looking at your website and rumor has it your fiance is really hot. So just so you know, folks, I'm not hitting on her fiance. She has this hilarious thing in her bio where she talks about it's part of her little shtick. She says, and a really hot fiance.
Yes,
That's okay. I say the same thing about mine. No worries. Mine's hot.
I call him hot stuff, just hold the ego a little bit, keep him where he needs to be.
Yep. Right. Got it. Kaitlyn, I'm going to pivot over to you. You have gone through everything that Lizzie's been going through as far as the education, having to do all of that behind the scenes work post-graduation that a lot of people don't think about, the time investment that you guys put in just to be able to help other people.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely
incredible. So how long have you been practicing?
Oh, geez. Well, my master's in counseling is actually my second master's degree, right? Because that's just a normal thing.
You need to go back to college.
Yeah.
Yes, ladies, you're inspiring me already. Yeah. Thank you.
So with my second master's, I graduated 2017. I was hired on immediately to get my licensure hours. So not only when you do the program, you have to get about 1,000 hours in, and then afterwards you have to apply for your licensure. You have to pass your national exam, and then you have to get an additional 3,000 hours in before you can become fully licensed.
Got it.
So typically it takes anybody 2 to 5 years to get their 3,000 hours, and I did it in about a year and a half.
I'm laughing because when did you sleep?
Yeah, don't get overwhelmed by her. This is what I say. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, Kaitlyn,
you're like,
you are
no
doing
worries.
all this and you're overwhelming me. And then I have to remind myself to be present. So she is an anomaly and I probably will not do the same thing, but just be as satisfied as she will. But so yeah, keep going. So she did her 3,000 hours like that.
Yeah, nice. And of course, that's really cool though. That's a healthy statement because people are different and they're going to do it different ways. And
Absolutely.
It's 1,000. Hear us. It's 1,000% okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want her, to do it her way. She needs to be creative.
Get overwhelmed, right? Other people overwhelm me. I leave and I'm like, oh God, I got to do all that yet.
But I've been practicing, I would say, since 2017. And then now I'm fully licensed and now I have my own practice and everything too. So that was the whole point, to kind of get through it so I could open my practice, because you had to be fully licensed for that. Yeah. And I just wasn't waiting around.
Well, yeah, like get her done, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So you folks, I encourage you to go over to the website, Tea Time with the Psychos, and check it out. There are multiple things these two ladies are doing and offering. And you guys are just getting started with the podcast, with the website, with everything that's going on. And like I said, you guys are coming out swinging. I really love your stuff. And I really appreciate that you're just here for it. Like you're just real and you're good to go. I have to ask you, what's driving you? I mean, this is really hard work. And right. I mean, it's hard work what you're committing yourselves to. And I know that there's a lot of fields that are that way, but since we're discussing mental health, what individually has driven you or has played a part to growing in this way to serve other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, number one, my first answer would be community. I think it is beyond importance. And, if we really want to advocate for breaking the stigma, we have to put ourselves out there. We have to be vulnerable and we have to show people and normalize it. So that's like my biggest drive. But then my other one was probably just the vulnerability, like since the pandemic and just working with people. Oh my goodness, it really has flipped a lot of things, like for me as a therapist, upside down, but also in a really, really good way. So the vulnerability that these patients have showed me have just been encouraging beyond belief. And so again, my drive is really that community and honestly breaking that stigma. And the only way we were going to do it is if we can show them that it can be done. So that's my drive.
So break the stigma. That is something that you guys talk about. And Lizzie, I'll come to you in just a second, give you a chance to collect your thoughts there. But I really love the idea of break the stigma, because there are so many people that will not go to any type of mental health assistance because of these stigma. I know that it's culturally true, depending upon either where you're from or where you're living now, as well as sometimes it can be a little bit of a gender thing. You know, dudes don't always want to go to counseling, and that is not all men. I do not mean that as a, you know, all men are that way. But there is a bit of that old school, boys don't cry, et cetera, et cetera. And
Absolutely.
by the way, you don't have to cry in counseling.
No,
it's not a requirement.
Your session.
Yep. And once people realize that, you know what I mean? Sometimes it really is just talking. I tell everybody, it's just having an unbiased person, an unbiased professional to help you with whatever it is throughout that day.
Amen.
And once we normalize it, and everybody should have this, and everybody deserves to have it too.
Yes. How can, yes, Lizzie, I'm going to come back to you. Well, tell me what your thoughts are for your why and what's driving you.
For me, so I think Kaitlyn's not always as vulnerable and open with her stories as she could be. But I learned that about her, which helped me set boundaries in my story. But my favorite line that Kaitlyn taught me when she was mentoring me was something along the lines like, right, we're here because we've all been through something similar. And that's a driving force.
Yes.
And our similars don't have to be identical, right? They're similar for a reason, and there's a reason why we're here. And so, right, I would say that that's probably my driving forces to like what brought me there. And I would say that probably I've had some mental health things when I was younger, but really didn't experience the full gamut of all of them until my 20s. And then later on into that, and then understanding how that journey has started to heal who I am and really be able to become who I've always believed I wanted to be. So that authentic self. And so that's my driving force, along with community as well. I always say I want to run for city council, right? Like put me on my soapbox. Let's get people what they need and where they need to go, and let's make it available.
She's got a lot of transportation.
Yeah,
ideas.
I do. Get me on the transportation. Let's get people to mental health places. All of it.
Mobilize. Is this an Avengers mobilize? No, what does he say? Never mind. Copyrighted. So I love it. I really love it. I love the idea that, and thank you for being open, both of you, Lizzie, especially about having a journey of your own, because that is part of why, either because I've struggled so heavily with mental health, or because I have struggled and gained ground, and I've had these moments where I go, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Like, it's okay. Anyway, 1,000 layers of, somebody getting sober and staying sober and making mistakes and all of the jazz, right? So I love the idea that there's story for every single one of us. And it's different. I love this, you guys, because let's see, how do I say this? There have been times in the other job that I have that I'm trying to encourage the community that I'm a part of. And I just want people to know that if you're breathing, you're dealing with something, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're off the deep end, but it doesn't mean you don't. Like, if you are, that it's like you're just doing what you can, you know what I'm saying? So if you're breathing, you're dealing with something, and we've all been through something, right? That's what you said, Kaitlyn. That's what you said, Lizzie. I love it. So now we know what it is that's driving you guys as individuals. Why is other people's growth important? Why is other people's mental health important? What made you externalize this instead of just saying, my mental health growth is important? You're saying, okay, no, I want other people to experience mental health.
I mean, I really believe that it takes a village. And so if I'm sitting here and I have this knowledge and I'm not sharing it with people, then I'm doing a disservice to people. And so again, I'll acknowledge my stuff, right? We all got things, but at the same time, we can come together, learn from each other, and then continue to grow. I mean, the separate individualism and separatism idea and all of that, maybe in some areas, but as far as mental health and community growth, we need to be doing it together. We can't do it separately.
Yes. I get a little bit of feedback, guys. I'm sorry if the sound is a little off for the episode, but when I hear myself, every so often I hear something strange. So we'll do our best with the audio, guys. Just bear with us. We're doing it. So Why for you, Lizzie? Do you have any specific thoughts, or you're just going to say yes, what she said?
I know, I was going to say, I echo everything Kaitlyn said, but I honestly think it's, if I'm going to do better, everyone around me needs to do better. How many people do you come in contact with every single day, from the gas station to the grocery store to work, to what they're dealing with or their significant other? And so that's, I think, I've always been a team player. That's one of my skill set, whatever. Why can't I think the strength finder is team, right? That's always just been something like, I'm going to take out the trash if the trash needs to be taken out, like literally, like at the job. That's what I'm going to do, whether it's in my job description, but that's because that helps the entire thing. So yeah, I'm going to echo what Kaitlyn says. And if I'm going to be better, everyone around me has got to be better.
Right. I appreciate that, because, your smile at the cash register really can do something. So even in just the smallest ways, and I know a community, we're talking about some very specific things, seeking help, getting professional help, things like that. But sometimes improving your day can start by helping to improve somebody else's. Like I said, that smile at the cashier at the grocery food store, because she's put up with 50 people before you looked up.
Yeah.
You guys, so here's a question for you. If somebody is saying, listen, I love this idea of mental health awareness. I believe that's this month, is it not? Mental health awareness.
It is.
Yes. So with all of this going on, they're like, listen, these are great ideas. But I'm feeling super overwhelmed right now, and I can't add not one more thing. How can you help somebody in that moment? I mean, what would you suggest?
Sure.
Like,
you can't add one more thing? Okay. Well, I would say that
she's like, no baloney over here.
I would have to say that no matter what, you can figure out potentially an hour, right, of your time, but also not even just an hour of your time, but it's an investment within yourself. And maybe it doesn't start with an hour, maybe it starts with a half an hour, right? And looking through those things and what do you need, and focus in on whether it's symptoms or whether you're just going through a phase of life transition, or whether you just need to run something by a professional because you're not really sure. So yeah, I don't know what you.
No, I just was thinking about she did a presentation at LeClaire Farms. That's around here with the goats. Because we did yoga with the goats.
Yeah, my face was plastered on a wall next to the goats.
But they have baby goats, so it's a great place. But so when she was there, right, she was talking with these group of.
Oh, Lizzie, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay,
it's
so
okay.
you're talking with a group of women there, and Kaitlyn, like, habit stacking, right? So like, even though you don't have an hour, do you do something for a half hour in the morning? And is it a podcast you could pick up? Is it an app you could download that gives you affirmations, right? Is it a friend that you know and you could call while you're walking? So I always think of like starting with your mental health, or if you don't feel like you have time, is how Kaitlyn calls it, habit stacking. And being able to kind of like start at least somewhere, so it's not feeling overwhelming or you're not having to rearrange your whole schedule.
Well, I also say like plant the seed. So whatever that seed is, I don't really care. Start 5 to 10 minutes a day. You planted that seed and then you started investing in yourself, which thus then made time for yourself. And I bet that 10 minutes felt great. All right. And then you just keep stacking on top of that.
I really like this. So invest in yourself, but something that you're saying, but that I guess the phrase would be keeping the promises you make to yourself. Right. Yeah. So I would like to feel better. I'll be honest with you guys. There are times when I'm in those I don't feel great days, or sometimes I have brain fog, or I will have eaten the wrong thing and I'm just totally anxiety, like just terrible things. Right. Right in the midst of that, I couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag. Like, I can't remember what's good for me right now. I can't remember to think what's good for me right now. So there have been times where I will come out of that fog and start to feel better, and then we'll remember, okay, I need to remember this stuff. Like, what helped me on the way out? So I'll put a Post-it note on the fridge, stuff to do when I'm feeling bad, stuff to do when I think, what is the truth? What do I need to remember? What are the activities that I did? I took an Epsom salt bath. I took a walk. I went to the gym, or, I took some enzymes, or a B vitamin, whatever. I ate some really healthy food, some of those things that can help in the meantime. And I try to remember that this is not, my feelings are real right now, but they might not necessarily be the truth.
Correct. And so what the things that you're saying, another is what I would call outsmarting yourself.
There, that's what you said. I have it stacking.
Not hard to do.
Right? But that also means like knowing, right? Well, knowing how you learn and how you operate. So like I have to outsmart myself because you're right. I have those days too. I'm a human, right? But I also allow myself grace. Like it doesn't mean that the bottom completely fell out because you needed a day or you needed 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like give yourself some grace, allow yourself to feel like you're saying, and then the next day is a brand new day and go to your list or the thing you've already created because you've already outsmarted yourself.
Yes.
And you go and you do that. And then you plant the seed and then you keep going.
And I love it. Plant the seed because we're all about growth here, people. And here's another thing just to encourage you guys. And I think that our experts will probably agree. You guys let me know what you think about this.
Sure.
When you plant a seed, it takes a second for it to die essentially. And it actually takes some time for those initial roots to be established before you see the growth above ground.
Correct.
Yes.
Right, folks?
Check mark. Yes.
Yes.
So just when you planted that seed and you're not seeing the growth above ground yet, it doesn't mean there's no growth. What it means is that you're stabilizing. And then after a hot second, give yourself some time. There's 1,000 scriptures in the Bible that talk about this. There's 1,000, I'm sure, probably books and experts and therapists and folks that have more clinical ways to say that. But for me, I just go back to gardening every time.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And also with that, another technique that's kind of quick and easy, I ask patients, how long have you been dealing with this issue? Let's just put a guesstimate on it. So let's say you've been dealing with anxiety symptoms about 15 years. Okay, well, it's not going to take 15 years to heal that, but it's not going to be an overnight success, kind of like the planting of the seed, right? So it's also a good way to conceptualize like, man, I've been dealing with this for a while, right? That doesn't mean it's going to take that long, but it's also acknowledging, and that can help you give yourself grace that I need a little bit more time with this one. It's a little longer one. So
yeah,
that's what I think
absolutely. And I really like it. And I had to realize that if I make a mistake here, if I have an abnormal social reaction to something, or I don't do this or don't do that, and that mine was always concerned about loss of relationship. And I think that is another reason why we tend to perform. We're afraid of losing relationship, or we're scared of having healthy boundaries because we're scared of the backlash from it. So I have had to tell myself, if you lose somebody over something like that, they're not your people.
Right.
It's okay that they're not your people, but there are people that in the community, and myself included, that will white knuckle something trying to make it right or perfect or not do this, or, you know, like you and we've been talking about a giveaway. So I'm grateful for the team that I have at my other job, because like I said, they make sure all that stuff happens, but I white knuckled Canva for 3 nights in.
Oh my goodness.
What is this supposed to look like? Just a little peek behind the scenes of growth season, people.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then as it developed, and as I started to figure out how I wanted to frame it and things of the sort, which hint, we're doing a giveaway. I was like, why was I so stressed about this? It's not anything anybody was doing. It was totally me, but because I wanted to do it right. And I didn't want to feel stupid.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What? Why?
Well,
Why would it even matter? It's a social media post. You know?
Well, I think we have a tendency to lean towards perfectionism in our culture and within ourselves, right? We want things to be done right, and we put a lot of emphasis on it. So I always say that sometimes it's okay. Like, that's a good anxiety for me when I hear you say that, compared to like a bad anxiety. Now, should it have lasted as long? Maybe not, but it's okay, because it's still because the next time you do it, right, you're going to be able to go back and look at what you learned. So I just look at those things as lessons. I think everything is a lesson. And next time, your Canva is going to be ready, and it's going to take you like 30 minutes. And so it's really about, what can I learn from that? But,
no, I really appreciate it. It's totally true, because I will go back to it. Right. Lizzie, are you feeling me? Are we?
Yes, took me in. There are so many saved Canva things that are not published, and I was like, Kaitlyn, just think of something. I can't do it right now. It's too stressful. But yeah,
social media.
The beast.
and then only like 14 people like it. It was my favorite. I'm like, why was I so nervous about this?
Why am I not outsourcing this? I don't care this much. I want to hang out with the people. I don't want to do graphics.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, we just love you guys. Can you guys want to do graphics for us? Is somebody out there going to help us? All right, guys. So let's circle back here. It's growth season where I think that mental health is such a huge part of personal growth. And I believe that we're, holistic beings, that there's a plethora, there's a whole complete system. Mental health is a very important part of it. But if somebody says, how can I grow in my mental health today? I'll give you a caveat there. You can give me your more professional opinion, and then you can maybe add whatever you would like after that. We'll just leave it at that.
Sure. I'll start with the professional piece. What I would say to that is if the idea pops into your head, that's kind of like your light bulb moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. You don't have to completely act on it 100%, but again, plant that seed. It really is about connecting with, it's about finding the right therapist. That's where I would start.
What do you mean by right therapist?
So if I am going for somebody and I need to do trauma treatment and I want to focus on anxiety, I better read those people's profiles and know they specialize in that, because each person specializes in something different. Okay. And definitely finding a therapist is not a one size fits all. If they do offer a free consultation, go. I offer that. I want to meet the person. They want to meet me. I'm like, ask me what you want to know. And it's also a really great way. So I'm very assertive. I am direct. I am straightforward. That is not going to fit everybody's style. I'm 100% okay with that. And that also gives them a choice too. You know what? I might want somebody who's older. I might want somebody who's younger. I might need somebody who's a different gender. I might need somebody who's specialized in something else. So I always tell people to do the research up front, and that's going to save you dividends in the long run.
Okay, Lizzie, say for example, I sit down and I realize that I'm with you and that it's not a good fit. What do I do?
Yeah, so this is where a lot of the clients that I work with, I always tell them like, okay, so either you call them and you tell them like it no longer works, or you don't reschedule and you move on. Mm-hmm. I think it's though that internalizing of, oh my God, now I've established this rapport or this one day relationship with someone and now I owe them all of my life and I need to go back. And so I think that that's just what people aren't told enough. And I think when I started my journey with mental health, from what I'm learning now, like I should have read everyone's bio and I should have been like, oh no, all right, I'm not even gonna call there, or this is what I'm looking for. And I think that you don't have to go to school to get that. I think you just need someone to tell you that that's what you should do. And then you can do a little bit of your own research to understand what maybe some of the terminology in the bio is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I always tell people when they come, because my current job right now allows me to advocate and coordinate services for people who are recovering from mental health. And so having that conversation, because it can be that stigma of I don't want to go. You don't have to go now, but when you're ready, just know it's not a forever thing. It's your choice continually. And so if this person you go and you're like, come back and we're going to look for another place, right? Insurance plays a huge role in all of this, but we'll look for someone else in your insurance. Like I'll write down a message that you have to ask the insurance agency if that's what's going to give you anxiety, so that you can visually see it and continue to make that phone call. So.
Empowering people to really be on their mental health journey and finding somebody that's going to be compatible with them along the way. I think it will just pay off.
I think it's, and like you said, dividends, like it's going to pay off exponentially, hopefully. What I'm hearing are two really cool things, that not only can somebody pursue mental health and go get the professional help and have, Kaitlyn, somebody who's straight up with you, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, that you guys are all prepared to listen to somebody say, hey, this isn't working, and you're not upset. That's in a professional realm. But Absolutely. If just choosing a counselor, which I think this is where so many people get hung up before they even go sit down, they're like, yeah, I need to find somebody. And then that's so overwhelming, they stop. what Lizzie's saying is that there are people whose entire job it is to literally walk you through every tiny step of finding somebody.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be eligible, but also like, right, we live in a smaller community. I'm sure that there are other people who you don't have to have the requirements you have. For me, they have different ones that make them eligible, right?
But there are people out there. There are jobs where people's job is to help you find this. You're not out there alone.
No.
Navigate this by yourself if you don't want to. And of course, like you're saying, every system and scenario is going to be different. So it might take a hot second to find it, but reach out, right?
Yep. Do the research up front. Prepare yourself for the upfront. You know what I mean? And then when you are in it, it can be better.
What if I'm having a pandemic panic attack and I'm sitting in my house? How can I help myself?
Sure. You know, I honestly think it depends on what your belief is in technology. Okay.
I was going to laugh because I called for more medication.
Mine went up. So let's not lie. Okay. Can we normalize getting help medicinally?
I was in the grocery store and I probably called her. I was like, I gotta call the doctor. Like, I can't even go into the grocery store. There are too many
re-entry anxiety.
Yes. Oh God. So yeah, sorry. That's just what I thought when that. But back to what we were talking about. If you are in your
regularly scheduled programming.
Side
note, honesty, vulnerability. Have a good day. Go ahead.
Absolutely. One piece that I always tell people is how do you learn best, right? I like to do research. So if I start researching a topic, maybe it is Brene Brown, maybe I start researching vulnerability and I'm putting my time into there, kind of getting used to the concept of that. But if you were sitting in your house, technology has been really, really great. I know that there's a ton of apps that are out there. I don't necessarily think those are long-term. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But I think some of the patients that I have seen have come, they're like, yeah, I started with the app. You know, generationally, they want to talk on the phone. And so I think that if that helps, then go that route. But a lot of things are virtual now too. So if you're open to that, again, finding the right provider, finding the right organization, those different types of things, I think it's a great way to start.
What if I just walk out my front door and take a walk?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, get some fresh air.
Go have a glass of water.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we'll experience, this is something I've learned, I'll experience a blood pressure drop or a little bit of dehydration or a blood sugar drop. And because it's like a cardiovascular thing, it feels like a drop and it gives me a little anxiety. And so instead of realizing that I'm not actually having a full tilt anxiety attack, my blood sugar's low.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Et cetera.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that Kaitlyn likes to articulate that, like, and obviously if you don't know what brings on panic attacks or like you haven't, but it's evaluating yourself and catching those things before they get there and then knowing that. But in a community standpoint as well, there are crisis lines. That doesn't mean law enforcement or someone has to come out to your house, right? It's a whole anonymous conversation of like someone, right, in crisis. You're creating structure in order to stabilize that. That's their job to do. And their job then is to ask you, what has helped you in the past? What do you remember doing? And they might identify it's the walk. So that person's going to encourage you to go for that walk or to eat that food or to call so-and-so, right? They're that person who is advocating and empowering you, and they're a crisis line. Yes, I don't like that they're called crisis lines, right? We could have health navigator or something else.
Stigmatizing it. Yeah, exactly.
But that's what they're there for. And that doesn't mean that law enforcement or you're being chaptered or you're losing it or you got to get to
listen. And I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of law enforcement that it's a mental health call. They love the communities. They want to be a part of something and supportive, but they know that they are not, although they do have training, they are not mental health professionals. And so some departments will have crisis teams that will come, some departments that, you know, it all varies, but you're mentioning, it doesn't always mean police. And I got to tell you, they don't always want to have to show up for mental health calls as well. So if you do end up hanging out with an officer that day, know that if you're uncomfortable, sometimes they're a little uncomfortable too.
Yes.
And listen, so there are so many different ways that somebody's day can turn out, and there are so many different trigger points for a frustration or a little bit of a scare or all the way through to a full tilt, I need to call 911. There are so many different ways. And then you add the pandemic on top of something like that. Okay.
Why can't we have like a pandemic team? I'll create my mental health pandemic team. Like I got my informal support, I got my formal support. They're all on call. They know when I text this word, I just need someone to pop over and check on me, or you know what I mean? You can create your own teams, but that's also being vulnerable and sharing with the correct people, right? And having those boundaries. Who's there and who can I trust in order for myself to bring myself back to this level playing field that I feel comfortable at?
Well, and also acknowledging that we're living in a collective trauma right now. That is what this pandemic is, you know? And so anybody who never, or who felt like they never experienced trauma before, you're in it right now. You know what I mean? It has been affecting people in so many different ways. And a lot of people have come out of the woodwork, which I think is great as far as our mental health field. And I hope it keeps happening because I think this is the time to do it.
Yeah. It's a little bit more widely acceptable because it's like we can all understand. I remember taking a walk early on, and when we had just kind of started, you know, like exiting the house, taking a walk with my son, and there was a guy across the way in his driveway, and we kind of like waved and nodded, and we were both like, "Yep." Yep, this
yeah.
Good to see you too.
Don't sneeze on me.
That's
Oh my gosh. Did you hear her cough?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right. So I really appreciate the help and the perspective that you guys are helping to give today. I know that there are so many who are still, even though we're like practiced pandemic people, there's things because early on, personally, I felt just fine. It removed the expectations of other people in my life because I'm a people pleaser. So it like helped shut down my people pleasing. And I was like, oh, I'm so relieved. So that was wonderful. I like the quiet. I like less people. I'm very social, but I'm actually really quiet when I like silence. So all of these things seemed really great for me early on. And because of my history with trauma and coming through some of that, I felt actually more equipped than a lot of people to handle something like this, as opposed to like you had mentioned, Kaitlyn, those who were experiencing true trauma for their first time.
Yep, absolutely.
And so it was like some of the old veterans were sitting back going, whoo, numbers are going nuts. You know what I mean? Understandably so. And that is not a clinical term. So please, I love you.
Yeah.
But
I think that plays into that resilience too. So not everything that's come out of the pandemic is bad, right?
Yes, thank you. Can you say that again, please?
Not everything that has come out of the pandemic has been bad, okay? There has been resiliency. There has been, I mean, honestly, my clients during this time, and when I talk about motivation, there has been nothing. I mean, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. Nobody gave me a training in Pandemic 101. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. No, I am.
She says, I am. I'm crushing this. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I love
it. But, you know, people got that strength and got through it. And I think as this thing starts to hopefully wean down and people get more comfortable, we're going to start to hear some of those stories of resiliency. And that's important.
Hey, especially if you fell on your face at first. No shame. Yeah. No shame. You're like, you know what? I crashed landed, but then I got back up, you know, like there's nothing better than a comeback, you know. It's just like, oh yeah, my face was in the dirt. My nose was bloody, but I love it. You guys, real quick, there's 2 questions that I ask everyone on the podcast on growth season. And I'm going to add a teeny tidbit to it. So what's your favorite season is the first question. And what growth season do you find yourself in right now? Think of a growing season, like maybe you're just getting your roots. Maybe it's a little cold and wintry. Maybe you've had to pull back a little. Maybe you're blooming. Maybe you're in full bloom. Maybe you're fruit bearing. Like, who knows, right? So what's your favorite season? What's that?
So I got nuts all over it. Cycle. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one on video for everybody. Okay. So the part I'm going to add is, what has been the hardest thing for your growth?
Dang. Whew,
Yeah.
we're getting
So let's
real
start with the easy one. Oh yeah.
I'll
Yeah, we're
start.
going to go out hard. So
Yeah.
let's start with the easy one. What's your favorite season?
Fall.
Yeah, mine is fall as well. Pumpkin spice. I was just drinking out of a wine glass that's supposed to be for Halloween the other day. Like I'm ready for fall. Mm-hmm.
And I sweat.
Wait, your audio went out. I'm sorry. Say it again one more
Okay,
time.
I said, and I sweat, and so I think we talked about that in one of our episodes. But so fall happens to be a great sweat-free season.
Sweaty Betty has gone to bed.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. Summertime has this feeling, although I love it and I love the beach, but it has this feeling of like pressure, because if it's nice outside, you have no reason not to go do a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I just want to relax.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, guys. So what is your growth season? What growth season are you in right now? And I know that most people's lives have multiple areas that vary, but if you want to pick something or pick a particular area, like for example, myself, I would say that I'm actually in a little bit of a fall right now.
Okay.
Where I'm recognizing some things, I'm seeing it, some stuff starting to die off a little bit. I think there might be a little hard, cold freeze for a hot second. Nothing horrible is happening, but in my own personal growth, I'm seeing where some things need to go to ground. Absolutely. So that I can get some new life,
For me personally, professionally, all of that, this is how I would describe it. I have a lot of things going. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of different ventures, a lot of different things in front of me. And I feel like I'm so close to it. Like each of them are just about to open up. So right before a sunflower opens, that's what I'm feeling where I'm at. Like, right, like you get that 1 week of really good sunflowers. Well, I'm right there about to burst up.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm in a similar season as you, but I also feel like I don't think I'm going to get that deep frost. I think though my leaves are just going to be falling for a while.
I like it. Get a little deciduous action there.
Yeah.
I'll pick your leaves.
You'll be raking. I'm hiring her to rake it up.
I'll rake your leaves. I'll put them up there next to my mom's.
Yeah.
I mean, what's one more thing?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I can get nominated as the neighborhood leaf raker, please.
Add it to the resume. We'll put it on the website. Somebody will relate to it.
Yeah.
I love it, guys. What's the hardest thing for you for your own personal growth?
I think, okay, so this is where I struggle, is that I'm really like my clinical side and then my personal side. I feel like sometimes they do clash. I'm getting better at it. I'm a firm believer in owning your own story. And I'm also a firm believer in people earning your story. So I always kind of ebb and flow with that. And like in sessions, I don't tell my story. You know what I mean? I tell people, like, if I couldn't relate to you, I wouldn't be here right now. And that's just enough, So, but sometimes I struggle with that boundary.
I think that's a healthy boundary because it's in a professional setting.
Yeah.
Understood.
But I think that's where I constantly kind of toggle back and forth. It's like professional versus personal. So that's what I would say is my biggest struggle.
So navigating that set of boundaries there, that's like your tension spot.
Yep. Okay, absolutely.
I like it. Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And I would say I struggle with consistency and motivation. And so, I could present myself in this way to whoever, whenever, but when I'm alone with just me and my wonderful thoughts, those are the hardest thing that I'm trying to consistently work on and have mastered, which I know may or may never happen, which I'm okay with, but bringing them as close as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's a little bit of a creating that internal pressure versus versus responding to that external pressure. Mm-hmm. I am also an external pressure that helps me, creates the internal pressure, and then I act. But it's in a desire to relieve my internal pressure created by the external pressure. Is that how many layers? But yeah, no, I thank you, Lizzie. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insert my thoughts into your response. I just relate a little bit, and I appreciate that because you guys being honest about your personal, because we've all got these wonderful professional profiles and things of the sort, but you as people pursuing and helping and succeeding and being women pursuing, you're like, you guys are women in business and excellence to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm hearing and seeing, and loving your communities and the people around you, whether personally or professionally. I love that. But when you have the courage to open up just a tiny bit about you, then I know, for example, Lizzie, I'm not alone, that I struggle with a consistent motivation. I'm a fast burner. I go, and then I have to calm down. And then I have to sleep.
Sounds familiar.
And then I'm like, I gotta sleep. I got 15 graphics done this week. I don't want to touch that thing for a month.
That's me.
So Lizzie, I would be no help for you. I'm glad you're hanging out with Kaitlyn.
You have to start hanging out with her.
I'd have to rake your leaves too. Geez.
Run over to Wisconsin. I'll be right there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Listen, I'm so excited that I found you guys.
We are too. Yes.
I really appreciate you and your time and your honesty and your expertise. It's such a beautiful combination. And I think the growth season community is just absolutely been benefiting from this episode. I have zero doubt
hope so.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. If you're not down with really smart ladies who laugh a lot, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go. Listen, please come back some other time. Let's do something together. This has been a great fun. And I just, thank you. My gosh, this was so much fun.
We're really happy to be doing it.
Yeah.
And again, I think this helps spread the word and break the stigma in any way that we possibly can. So we really appreciate it. And you were great.
Yeah.
You can have us back in like 6 months, or like do a recap episode, since mental health is always,
Let's see if Lizzie has made it.
Till 2022. So
2022 people, you are her accountability.
yes.
But you're also mine. I have to circle back now.
Yes.
All right, you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you very soon.